Welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm calling in remotely, and we have Diana, who is in the iHub, the Innovation Hub right now, and she's going to be giving a tour in a little while. And she's joined by Baxter, who is also calling in remotely, and the two of them will be talking about the Innovation Hub at Green School. First, just a little bit of background. I'm in my 5th year at Green School. For 4 years, I was a learning support teacher in the primary school. And this past year, I've been in admissions. My son graduated from Green School Bali last year, and I just love being part of the Green School community. So I'm always happy to take your questions by email. Either I or Eva Pancha will reply to you if you email us at admissions@greenschool.org. And in the meantime, I will pass it on to Baxter and Diana to introduce themselves, and then you'll get a little tour of the Innovation Hub at Green School. So, Baxter, can you hear me?
Hi, okay.
Hey, Baxter. Okay, Baxter, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, and then Diana will join us in just a moment.
Sure, I'd love to. Hi, everyone. My name is Baxter. I'm the director of the Innovation Hub. I've been at Green School now for 3 years, and we have started the project since I was first there from probably a building that was a little bit too small, I would say, to something that's maybe 5, 6 times the size of what we had. And that's accommodating almost every grade on campus throughout the week. We do our best to bring as many students as we can. As you saw some of the video clips, if you were seeing what was playing before we started, there's several different spaces, distinct spaces in the Innovation Hub. We like to think of ourselves as the hands-on project-based learning environment at the school, and generally means working with students in their hands and finding projects that they're interested in that they can relate to and apply to different subjects that they're working on in their classes and with other teachers. And we have almost every grade in there, from pre-kindergarten, the Starlings, which is one of our first years, all the way up to the grade 12s. In addition to that, we also have parents that come in and do projects. So it's not a exclusive space. We try to welcome as many people as we can, as safely as we can. And it's been as challenging as it is in that space. It's incredibly exciting. The students absolutely love it. They're constantly drawn to what's going on. There are some students that gravitate towards these projects naturally and some that don't. And once they kind of see what's possible, tends to be almost everyone jumps in. And it's really exciting to work with and be a part of. And I'm always excited to to welcome a new class into the Innovation Hub.
All right, thanks, Baxter. Diana, I see you now. Great. Okay, Diana is joining us from the iHub or Innovation Hub at Green School Bali. Um, Hi, Diana. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then talk about the iHub.
My name is Diana. I'm the coordinator of Innovation Hub. Innovation Hub is a project-based center for the student in the Green School to work here with us and doing some projects like greenstones, quests, and footprints. So, Baxter might can add more.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So what Diana is saying is those are like our transition year projects. So footprints are for grade 5 students, and we have several of those projects that have been going on. Everything's remote now, so we're still mentoring students, but footprints are for grade 5 going into grade 6. Quests are for grade 8s going into grade 9. And then greenstones are grades 12 going into beyond, whether it's college or study abroad or year off. We have many different students choose different paths at the school, and we support that as they are responsible for their learning as they develop through the Green School, and they know themselves best. And so all these projects kind of give them a new part of their personality and themselves. The footprints with the grade 5s tend to be a couple weeks, maybe a couple months long. The Quest project is maybe a couple months to 6 months long, and the Greenstone is 6 months to a year long. And so we have, not again, this is just, these are those are specifically for those grades. We mentor many of those students, but they also have other opportunities for mentoring with other teachers and parents that are on campus. But then all the other years in between there for middle school and high school and primary and kindy, we have a lot of other classes that go on a regular basis. We try to develop hands-on skills, computer skills, digital fabrication skills. We try to introduce the students to the tools and the equipment in a safe way so that they can begin to understand how to use them properly. We talk about the importance of tools being sharp. The sharper the knife is, the safer it is. And it's important to know that when you're working with things like bamboo, which is one of the materials we do tend to use just because we have so much of it. Just on campus and at the Green School, we can go and take poles of bamboo from where they're growing and harvest them, or we can order larger quantities if we need to. Should we walk around the space just to see what else we can check out?
Maybe
if you're able to.
I want to add more. Like we start a social enterprise, if I'm not mistaken. So we also help doing like product development with BioLab, with Kumbali, and have like work together with also local community to make product, to sell product, and also to serve the school if they need something like they want to have this tag, these medals for graduation. So Innovation Hub is the place where they can come to produce these medals for graduation. So I will show around, but before I will talk to you.
Great. Thanks, Diana.
Reza.
So what Diana was mentioning with Innovation Hub is as a social enterprise, as is the BioBus. The BioBus is our school bus fleet of 6 buses now, which are all biodiesel. So it means they run on used cooking oil, and that we collect those from local restaurants in Bali that partner with us. So like the BioBus, social enterprise, we also we have the Green School Shop, and the Innovation Hub. So these organizations on campus also have a production sales side to them. And we like to highlight that with students to show them what actually goes on when we have, let's say, business transaction, because we have products that come in, we work on them, we produce them, and then we sell them to either a customer that's ordered them or in the shop.
So I think we are ready to show the Innovation Hub. So we will start from this place. This is the place where the ideas brainstorming happening. Right now, all the chairs on the table because students are not here. We call it the brainstorming area. This is where all the computer-based projects on-screen desk project happening. We have our computer here, and that is our laser cutter. And this is the student self project where they store their project. Also, I will show you this is a very cool, a, a very cool project just recently happened this semester. This is bamboo Arduino project, which student and the teacher learn how to make an bamboo can work, bamboo design can work and move with the Arduino. And
So that's like a coding program, Arduino?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a robotics program. That was for a middle school class. It was called Bamboo and Robotics, and they used
Oh, so
Arduino.
they make bamboo robots?
Yes,
Oh, cool.
exactly.
I haven't seen that. That's very cool.
Yeah. So that one, the arm moves and it lights up. And
Wow.
yeah, that student, I think, is coming back next year. They can finish that one.
Great.
This is our showcase where our project, iHub team project and the student project are shown in this area. And this is our woodworking and bamboo working space where students who has bamboo project and woodworking project will be working here. As you can see, it's a little bit messy, and that is our tools cabinet. All the drills and hammer and nails are there. And I will lead you to the this is the violet area. We do our essential oil productions here with these distillations. And we have some of our products here. The hand sanitizer, candle and soap. And some of this project is made by students this semester. Also, this is our Bali station, the waste management center. We have our plastic recycling machine here, and our sewing machine are also here. It's a part of clothing and fabrication. This is our robotic area where students have fun doing coding and programming and robotics and learning about electricity. I think that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Diana. So I saw there was a 3D printer, a laser cutter, sewing machines, essential oil distillery, hand tools, power tools. What else? Oh, the robotics area. What else was there? Was there anything else I missed?
There's the plastic recycling machines and the
Oh,
waste
yeah.
separation station.
Right, right. Okay. So now the recycling area works with Kambali, which is the recycling drop-off station that our community uses. So our Green School families use that, as well as the local community uses that for dropping off recycling. And then as I understand, students help sort the recycling materials, and then some of the materials they can either take to their classrooms to use for projects or use in the iHub for making things. I know certain types of plastic are used for manufacturing recycled plastic products. Can you talk more about other projects using recycled products?
Sure. Yeah, there's several. One that comes to mind is one that a student's doing, Leander. He's making surfboard wax combs with recycled plastic. So what we saw briefly in the Bali area is a recycling station for plastics. There's a shredder, which is the first step to shred the plastic. And then there's an extruder, and we put the plastic into the extruder, and then we add a mold to the end of it. And then when we push the plastic through a hot tube, basically, it becomes molten, and then is made into whatever shape we have on the mold. And so he's specifically trying to find, or he is using ocean plastic to turn into surfboard wax combs. And that's a project run with SOAP, which is a program, a student group started with one of our favorite teachers, Pac Francis, who is very adamant about ocean cleanups and is also big into surfing. And SOAP is Surfers Ocean Ambassador Program, and they also make homemade zinc for sunscreen to put on your face when you go surfing, because the chemicals put into some store-bought sunscreens actually can be really harmful to the environment. So we're trying to promote like healthy, active sunscreen for surfers.
Cool. That's very cool because I want to say maybe 3 years ago when I was a teacher, I had a group of students who did this term-long project on the dangers of using chemical sunscreens and how oxybenzone destroys corals, kills live corals, and they started this whole information campaign, and I think that the work that Pac Francis and his middle school students arose out of those primary students who I was working with a few years ago and their efforts. So it's cool to see that is continuing on in a different form now. So can you guys talk more about how different ages at Green School use the iHub? Because we have students ages 3 to 18, and so I assume 3-year-olds are not in there using power tools, but how do the youngest students engage with the iHub compared to older students?
Maybe Diana can talk a little bit about the sensory activities that we have for the younger students.
So yeah, we have a course or class with the early years. Most of the class is about science right now because we also will emphasize science to the early age. So the class is about sensory play, how to understand science in simple way, in simple experiments. Sensory play is like we have our essential oil productions here right now. So we have different tube of essential oil without the name, and we ask students to smell it, and they will guess what is it, what's the plant what the plant is for this essential oil. That's one of the activity that we have with early years. But also recently we have like distance learning with the early years about natural creature, which is they go around their house and collecting some of leaves and sticks, and they turn this collection into an art, and they have storytelling about that. So that's very cool idea to have with the early years. We also emphasize the green school skills in our course. And Baxter has an idea also with the early years and very cool about architectural and design. So maybe Baxter can explain.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that. So the early years, we know their attention spans sometimes aren't as long as other students. So we do more hands-on activities with them, like making oobleck, which is cornstarch and water, as an activity for them to just play with something that's very tactile. We have the sensory smell game that Diana was explaining. We also have paper making. So students, we actually set up the paper making station, and we maybe make one sheet of paper before the students just gather around the bucket full of water and shredded paper and just start playing with the water, because they just love the idea of the paper and being able to squeeze it in their hands. And we've also made another very exciting project for the students was working with the paper to make seed bombs or um, seeds inside of paper that we could then disperse around the campus and watch them sprout. And I guess, should we answer some questions? Is that, yeah,
Yeah, that
okay.
would be great.
All right, we'll start with Jamie's. I'll just repeat the question. So what's a typical school day look like in the iHub? Right, so typical school day is a tough one to come by at the Green School. Just to be completely upfront with you about that. So we could have on a Wednesday is a good example of what's a reoccurring day, which is we call it jalan-jalan, which in Indonesian means like it's kind of like a walkabout, to walk, like a journey. And we use those periods. It's 4 hours in the morning on Wednesdays for middle school and high school. We use those times to really dig deep into projects. Primary school has those jalan-jalans on Thursdays for 2 hours, so a different amount of time. So what happens usually during the day, Monday, let's say Monday morning is usually a planning day for us in the iHub. We might have one or two classes. Tuesday, we might have several classes all at once, which means we'll have one class in the brainstorming digital area where they might be using the laser cutter or just using some of the hands-on equipment. At the same exact time, we could have a class in the woodworking bamboo area. And then we could also have students in the biolab area as well as the robotics area. So I think we range in activities from one activity to 5 or 6 activities we've had probably at a maximum. That just really is basically people management and noise. So after that, it kind of gets a little bit too hectic. And then we schedule directly with the teachers. So the teachers and either we ask the teachers, hey, do you want to work together on a project? Or a teacher comes to us and say, hey, we really want to do something in this space. Or they say, we really want to make this thing. Can you help us? And we'll sit down and plan that out in the first, before the semester starts or before the block starts. Kind of figure out all the details and get all the materials and supplies we need and any experts we might be able to work with. And then we'll bring the class in anywhere from one day a week for maybe an hour up to 4 days a week for maybe 2 hours. So it ranges. It really depends a lot on what the teacher's going for. So just as an example, the robotics class that we saw, the bamboo robotics class, that is 2 days a week for 2 days each day. So on Tuesday and Thursday they come in, and that's with, I think we had 20 students with 2 teachers, and they would split 10 students. This is a middle school class, 10 students for robotics specific, 10 students for bamboo specific, and then they'd switch after 1 hour. And that went on for 6 weeks. And at the end of that, we had what Diana showed us, which was a robot of some kind. There were many different versions, but that was one of them. And then let's see if we have another question. How are we guiding through students to the ideation process? It's a great question. So what we do is we start with kind of like an idea session. We'll work with pencil, paper, just, what's the idea, who, what, why, where, when, how. We'll really go through those questions as quickly, not quickly, but as through them through in a class period to really build an idea of what we're going to be doing. If it's a project-based class, we'll start going along the path of, does it need to be built? What needs to be done? We'll go through the very simple steps of getting cardboard from Bali. So that was our resource recycling area. We use that constantly all day. Even teachers on campus, we welcome them to come in and pick up supplies for their own classrooms. But we'll go from an idea, which is just talked about on paper, and then we'll ask a student, can you make a scale model of what you're talking about? And so an example of this is we had students come in, they said, we want to make skateboard ramps and boxes and things. And that's challenging, to say the least, for a student to begin to think about that. So what we said is break it down, make us a scale model of what you have in your mind, and then we'll start to build it. And we actually never got to the building stage because they just had so much fun building scale models. They ended up making a mini skate park with all the models that they made. So it was really fun to see them do that. And that's happened a few times, just the nature of middle school boys, which is cool. And then let's see if we have some other multiple. So yeah, multiple classes is, so it's what it comes down to is as long as there's a teacher and an iHub staff available, then a class can come in. So iHub staff right now is 6 of us. And so we'll basically either jump between classes or be with one class for the time that they're there. And that's just to really manage the space, to make sure everything is safe. And any questions, even things like where's the extension cord, that comes up a lot. So helping students get things done and not having time wasted, because some classes are short and we want to make sure they get as much as they can out of that time that they're in there. Okay, parent participation is a good question. So we have memberships available. It's a month-long membership. We've had some really, really great projects from parents come from that membership time. And what it basically means is, well, there's a lot of low points during the day where the machines are not being used and the tools aren't being used. And what we basically say is, if there's no students or no classes going on, then the parent has access to the space. And we have one project I can remember of many. There was a mother who came in and wanted to make a chess set for her younger son, and she used a laser cutter to laser cut out the shapes and glue them together and made a really cool, unique chessboard for her son in about 2 weeks. Really cool project. And also, along with that, we have workshops that we go on once a week, usually once a week. And we bring in experts. One of our more popular classes was how to make a leather phone case. So we brought in a leather worker and they taught a class of about 12 parents, I think. And sometimes parents are like so excited. They're like, I can't wait to come back and make more. And we've run that activity again, which is great. We want the space to be used in a safe way as much as possible. And we do many workshops, either parents' interest or something that we think the community might like. And we have people from around Bali come, tourists even, as well as Green School parents. And then how many teachers help facilitate each space? So we see ourselves as facilitators to the learning that the teacher is bringing. So we come in and we support. So if a teacher comes in, there was one project we had, was making bioethanol. So ethanol is what you would put in your car vehicle, not into a diesel. Diesel goes into a diesel car. Ethanol goes into like a normal car. We made bioethanol with, we used some scraps from the kitchen, some fruit that was left over and discarded, and we turned into bioethanol. And so we had the teacher come in to bring in the science and explain how reactions happen, and then we were there to make the product. So that happens a lot. So there's the kind of like the theory happens maybe in the classroom, and then the more hands-on practical side happens in the innovation hub. And then does the iHub work closely with other subjects like science, art, math to create interdisciplinary projects? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we cater to the STEAM methodology, which is the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And we also work with what we call the pies. which is the physical, intellectual, emotional, and social well-being. So both of those together kind of you can cover a lot of ground with those topics. And so it's a student's if a student's doing their own project, they can have many of those topics covered. If a student's coming in that's from a science class, it may be more science based, but they can also input some other aspect of something they want to use. We highly encourage students to put their own personal spin on things. What are they drawn to? What do they like? How can they incorporate it with what we're doing? Through this distance learning project that we've been working on for the past couple of weeks, we ran a projectathon, which we kind of just were like, we need to have a 24-hour project experience for the students. What can we do? And we decided to make a project around food. And food is something we all share and something we can all relate to. And we gave the high school students 24 hours to complete this project. And there's 120 high school students, and they've come back with 120 totally unique, absolutely amazing projects. And we're trying to go through them and pick out the ones that really, we really like, but we like all of them. So it's really exciting to see them respond to that, a little bit of framework. What can you do at your house, and how can you share it with the community? So that's been really exciting. And then maybe passion project. I wonder, Jennifer, is that with is that for the staff?
I'm guessing. Well, I assume that's talking about like Quest or Greenstone or Footprints projects. So something that's student generated.
Yeah, Aaron, if that's your question, so passion projects. I don't know which one isn't a passion project, because we have so
Right.
many students that run in and they just can't wait to get in there and get their hands on whatever they're working on. So yeah, the passion project in terms of the transition years that we like to highlight, the fifth grade to sixth grade, eighth grade to ninth grade, and 12th grade to beyond. Those being passion projects, we really try to work with the students to make sure that what they're working on is not just like, oh, I'm going to do this project. It's something they can really draw from and take away from, and they get excited about, and they run around and they want to tell everybody, and they want feedback. And those projects happen regularly throughout the year, typically so right now, if the school was open and we were there, it would be very busy in the Innovation Hub. It's usually the days that I start to come in looking very tired, because it ends up being very full days, which is great. We love having the students come in. And these are when the kind of deadlines start being seen on the horizon. And we like to get students to fail as early as they can, so that whatever project they're working on, they kind of like see what's wrong with it. And that's the kind of like a challenge, because it's not really something that we think of as good in a way. We don't really know. We're not really told to embrace challenge a lot of the time. So in the Innovation Hub, we say, like, get to the point where you don't know what you're doing as soon as possible, and then take a look back and see what can you change to make it go to where you want it to go. And so that happens. It can happen on the computer as well. We have students that are coding, making videos, making 3D models, and then on hands, with their hands, we say, make your model out of the cheapest material, out of cardboard, out of the cereal boxes that you brought from your house. Cut it up and let's put it together in the shape that you want. How do you see it? And then we kind of just guide along the way, and we'll get to a point where we'll say, well, you might want to start thinking about, how big is that going to be, or how heavy is that going to be, or where is it going to go? Because at the scale model of, something you can fit in your hands, it's really nice way to talk about something. And as soon as students kind of see what they can do differently, they really get excited because then they start to take on the project for themselves. And then will they get help or do they have mentors? Absolutely, we have mentors for each passion project. Um, it can be a parent, absolutely can be a parent. The teacher is there to facilitate, to kind of guide the process. So they'll have time during the week to work on these passion projects. And it depends on, if it's the fifth grade or the eighth grade or the 12th grade project, how much time is spent. But they're given a pretty clear road to kind of like navigate along. And they have workbooks to fill out and they have feedback to get. And then as you get older with the Quest eighth grade projects and the 12th grade projects, the Greenstone, there'll actually be dedicated time during the week where parents can come in and be kind of like introduced to the project and then asked for feedback. And it's really exciting to see because it's one-on-one with a parent who may have a lot to share and may just be someone to practice talking about your project on. It's very unique. It's very important. The more students can talk about their project and take ownership of it, the more confidence they have, we see, and the more excited they get. So yes, we absolutely support them. And then how do you get all 120 students committed to hand in the project on time? Okay, right, that's a good question. So the 24-hour project we did, that was just for the transition between block 5 and block 6. And so we asked them to hand it in on a certain day, and sure, yeah, some people handed it in after that time. And it was not for a letter grade. It was the kickoff to our block 6, which is the last block of the school year. Our block 6, Jalan, which is our Wednesday 4-hour program, which in distance learning Wednesdays we've deemed no screen days. So students are encouraged to do all their like research and preparation on Tuesday. So Wednesday they can turn off their computer and just not have to deal with the screen and get the work that they're trying to do on their project done. So that was the 24-hour 120 student project we did. Now they're into maybe 10 to 15 student group sizes with a teacher on working on a specific project that they've chosen. So that's shifted now that we're in the block 6. And then, do you have a scope and sequence of skills you want students to achieve? Yes, absolutely. For the younger years, what Diana was mentioning, we have more sensory activities. We have more tactile motor skills to build. We want them to get comfortable in the space without having to be responsible to make anything or build anything. As we get to grades 3, 4, 5, we start to see a big change just in the development of the child and the ability that they have. They suddenly become really excited about hammers. so we have a program called What's on My Tool Belt, and we go through each of the hand tools that you might kind of run into if you had a tool belt and you were working somewhere. So we have the hammer and screwdrivers, drills, saws, even like a blade cutter. We start to introduce that very early on, how to use it safely. Again, we teach them that the safest blade, and I'm talking about an X-Acto blade or a box cutter, we call them. They have a retractable blade so you can put it away safely, but when you're using it, you put the blade out and can cut paper. We teach them it has to be sharp. And if it's not sharp, it's dangerous. And they begin to notice that as they use these tools. They begin to notice that a sharp blade actually tears the paper and makes you try harder to cut it, whereas a clean, sharp blade cuts the paper in one stroke, usually 2 strokes. We don't try to get them to cut it in one stroke. We just say it should cut easily is what we say. And then beyond that, as we get into middle school, then grade 6 is when we ask the students to have their own personal computer. And so then we start getting into coding, and robotics comes into play, and 3D modeling and 3D printing is an aspect of what we focus on. And then as we get to high school, then we're getting into the bigger projects. We're getting into more like, you could say, furniture scale. We're getting into small building scale that we do with the students, which is really exciting. Again, in the intro video that if some of you saw it, that was playing before we started, the building, 3 of the walls in the building were built by the community, and 1 of those walls was built by the high school students. So they came in and they built one of the walls, which was it's an Adobe style building. We used sand and clay and straw to basically make bricks that we packed into the wall and made it a wall. Yeah, and then we coated it with lime, and lime is a natural naturally white, and it's naturally antiseptic and everything. So it doesn't need any paint, and it sealed the wall. So now we have a standing wall made by the students. So we try to, and we've done that before. We've made a larger building, a much larger building on campus with the students. It took about 6 months, so it was several classes long. And then we also worked with them to install solar panels with the high school. So we definitely work with what they're able to do, and then we also respond to what they're interested in. We had a high school student actually, his greenstone is learning about how to make the green school even more sustainable, how to reduce more power consumption, which is always an issue. Even leaving a light on or a fan on overnight costs electricity. Thankfully, we have some really great renewable energy projects, and we had a high school student take that on to say, okay, what can we do? He's using the school as his thesis to see how much energy we consume, how to plan for energy consumption, which everyone has a laptop and everyone plugs in. What does that mean when you have a phone and an iPad? These things start to cost electricity at some point. So he's studying that, which is really exciting, and that's his greenstone. And then how do you manage the laser cutting or 3D printing station, since projects take a while to print? That's right. Yes, they can. So we have 1, 2, 3. We have 4 printers. I'm pretty sure. I think we might have 5. We just got one. I think we have 5 3D printers now. And so what's the kind of the rule for the printer is you need to get it checked before you print it. And so what that means is that myself or one of the technicians will look at the print on the screen. They'll email it to us on the computer, and we'll go through it. And if there's any changes, we'll ask them to make the necessary changes. And then when it's ready to print, there's basically just a print queue, and students they do have to wait. It's the longest print we've done, I think, is like 30 hours. So that takes one printer 30 hours to make. It's not terrible. We've printed over the weekend as well if we need to. If classes come in and they're going to be using the 3D printer a lot, what we do is we basically reserve time for them to be printing on the printers, and we give ourselves about a week turnaround to get projects back to students. And now that there's some really well-versed, I would say, middle school students that have absolutely loved the 3D printers as they graduate into year 9. I think we'll start to see them being incorporated more into high school classes, which would be exciting. And then same with the laser cutter. The laser cutter is a great tool. It's probably one of the most, I think it is the most used machine in the Innovation Hub. We have, I think it's a 40 by 60 centimeter area to laser cut. And that's a tool that we either prep a class with. So we'll have the grade 3 students, for example, come in and we've already laser cut out like foldable shapes, geometric shapes that they have to fold using the laser cut template. Or we'll have a class that wants to work on it directly. And if that's the case, then we dedicate that time for that class so that we don't get too much of a bottleneck. Yeah, if anybody has any ideas of another laser cutter, we would absolutely use a second laser cutter. It just happens to be on our wish list, but we get by with what we have, and it's used and it's fast, which is great. It's faster than a 3D printer. And then the size of the printer, the 3D printers are a bit smaller. They're the Prusa i3 is 2 of them, and then we have an Ender, which is about the same bed size. I think it's 20 by 20, maybe 15 by 15 centimeter, and then the other ones are smaller than that. And then okay, so the 3D printer is a good question. The sustainable materials. So we use exclusively PLA, which is polylactic acid, which is actually plant plastic. And so what we do, because 3D printing is an additive material, an additive process, we actually we don't have a lot of scraps. So we have maybe a shoebox size full of scraps for the year, which is great. What we can do is we can melt that down again with the plastic recycling equipment and turn it into something else. I'm kind of using it as like a little bit like, hey, anyone interested in using recycled 3D prints for a project? So I don't want to be the one. I want students to use that. It's a material. It's something to use. So it's available. We haven't done anything with it yet, but we can. We also recycle filament from plastic. So from HDPE and LDPE and polypropylene. There's a company in Surfboard that mass produces it. So we work with them to get that style if a student wants to work with that specifically. Yeah, great question. So do you guys use a lot of electricity to operate all these machines? So the laser cutter and the 3D printers do not use that much electricity, which is great. The machines that are like the woodworking, machines like the table saw and the bandsaw and the drill press and the miter saw and the chop saw, those have a very high startup cost. So when you turn on the engine, you'll hear that like boo noise. That's like when it's going. So that for across any machine, you're going to have that. And so in that moment, it'll draw a lot of power, but then after that, it will kind of level off. And so what's great about the Innovation Hub is we have 24 solar panels on the roof. And that doesn't by any means cover our own usage of electricity in the building, but it adds to our total. And so across campus, I think at this moment we have around 180 solar panels. And that produces about 40% of our power. And we have two of those, we have 3 systems. 2 of them are grid tied, which means they're tied directly to the grid. And so we basically we give power to the grid when we're not using it. So like on the weekend, for example. And then when we need power, we draw power back. And then we have one solar system that's a battery system on campus that's used as kind of like a backup system. So in case the power does go down, we can use that. And that's tied to our IT system and like the accounting building. So those can continue running with the power outage. And then something that came in last year is called the Vortex. The school is located on a river. It's called the Ayun River. It's one of several rivers that Bali has that are big enough to put on an energy harvesting system like we have. It's an inline river system, so it doesn't dam the river. What it does is it diverts a very small portion of the river into like a side entrance and then down a 10-meter drop to a bowl. And that bowl pushes a generator, and that generator produces electricity for the school. So last November, we had the Vortex on and 2 of our solar systems on, and it was the first time we gave more power back than we took for the school for that month. And since then, we've had 1 new solar system installed, another 40 panel system, or a 30, I think it's a 32 panel system. We have 8 panels to use for a different project. And so what that means is, with all the systems up and running, we should be able to export more power than we produce, which is very exciting. And that's given our current consumption. But again, the students' project for their greenstone, Harry's project, is to look at what is our future power consumption and how do we kind of plan for that. Okay, I talked more than enough. Anyone else? Maybe Diana want to say something? Or any other questions? I'm happy to keep going. I just want to make sure I'm not taking anyone else's thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Baxter. That was a lot of really interesting information. It's been interesting for me as someone who's not directly involved in the iHub to see how it has evolved over time. When I first came to Green School in 2015, of course, there was no iHub, and it started as an idea, and people were motivated to make it happen, but it happened very slowly. You guys started off being in a little hut with no resources to speak of, but with lots of great ideas, and it has slowly evolved into this incredible, very useful space where students get to see their ideas come to fruition through lots of experimentation and hard work and failure and trial and error. So it's really cool to see how it has evolved over time, and how, as students progress in their time at Green School, how it's used in different ways as they get older too. So it's such a cool space, and I know it's a part of the week that students look forward to so much. And you guys do an incredible job with just keeping learning at the center of it. It's not just about making stuff; it's about the process and learning the science behind what you're doing, and learn how to take how to plan and budget and all the steps involved in seeing a project from start to finish. So it's so many really wonderful life lessons that kids are learning that they wouldn't get to learn just by reading about it in a book or watching a video or whatever. So it's very cool. So I guess we're about out of time. Do either of you have anything else you want to add before we end today's session?
Yeah, I would like to introduce our social media as a platform where we always share our project with students. It is in Instagram and Facebook. So in Facebook, it's called Innovation Hub at Green School, but in Instagram, it's with the ID iHub Green School. So if you have that social media, you can follow us to see, also to follow our journey there with the student.
Yeah, lots of really cool projects happening, and these are student ideas, student projects, and you guys are incredible guides to help make those dreams come true for kids. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us. We'll have another session at a different time next week, and it'll be a whole bunch of different questions and different explanations. So if you're able to join us next week, that would be great. Otherwise, just follow the iHub on Facebook and Instagram. See all the cool things that are happening. And then in terms of admissions, if you're interested in applying to Green School Bali or Green School English, go ahead and submit your application. We're taking applications, of course, for the 2020 to 2021 academic year now, and we're already getting in applications for into the next school year as well, 2021 to 22. So yeah, go ahead and send in applications, send in your questions. We're here to answer your questions whenever you have them. So thank you guys. Thank you, Baxter and Deanna, for joining us. And everybody out there, stay healthy, take care, and we hope to see you all in person next time. Bye-bye.